Okay.
Yep. And I hit got it. Then share your screen, just anything on your computer. Okay, and now stop the share. And now you've locked it and tricked it into 1080p.
Why? How?
I think it's because the way it's set up, it once you screen share, it kicks it
Okay.
into a higher level
Interesting.
because
Okay. Yeah, I gotta write that down.
there's
Okay.
it has you can buy a more expensive program instead of like $30 a month. You can buy it so that it records in higher resolution for you.
Hmm.
Um, I gotta get my camera working.
Well, and you do a lot of video work too, so that is important for you. I mean, most people just listen to audio, but we do put it on YouTube. I have a small YouTube following, but
Well, yeah, and it's good for
just
me
good.
because
Yeah.
I gotta turn my video on. It's good for me because when you send this back to me, as soon as it renders,
Yeah.
then I'll be able to have a better quality video. And I've tested it
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it does. Because I had someone do it the other day.
That's no,
And if you don't
I
have good quality on Instagram or anything like that, people don't watch.
watch it. I got a new laptop and then my video quality is not good on this computer. I got to get something else. But you put it on the list. There's so many things to do. I'm just like
Yeah, it's just like with
trying
non-toxic
to.
lifestyle. There's so many on the list. I got to get rid of all my silicone because there's just new research out on silicone, even unless it's really good. But the stuff that you heat, you don't want
Yeah.
to.
Oh, totally.
I always
Oh,
thought that, but it's just so convenient, right?
well, let me get you recording because everything you say is going to be a nugget here. But
No,
couple
you're already
questions.
recording. Don't touch it.
Oh yeah. I forgot I am.
Yeah, don't touch
Um,
it because then it'll jump it out. Oh, I just
I know you're
locked. Hold on, let
frozen.
me. Yeah, I'll
I
just.
also record on another platform too. So once we get started, I'll push record on that one. But let me ask you, I did send your team just yesterday as I was kind of prepping for this. I'd like to go through one of your questions was what are the top 5 changes you can do in your home to help you and your family thrive? But can we go room by room? Like, can we start with the kitchen? What can we do in the kitchen, the laundry room, the bedroom, the bathroom, and just kind of go through the house that way?
To make it really good, let me just grab a couple printouts of those. Those did really well on my channel, and people love those takeaways.
Yeah, that's where I came up with this. Yeah.
Yeah, so they do. They love it. So let me grab those and print them out so that I come across really fast and I'm not pausing and
Sure.
because I don't have to go up in my mind and go, okay, what's going on? I can just glance down and remind myself.
And I want to open with your story. So I'm going to explain a little bit about myself and my book and whatnot. And then I want to ask how you became the non-toxic dad. So I kind of want to start with that. And then at the end, do you have a lead magnet, a free gift? I'll ask where listeners can find you. And then how do you want to bring listeners back to you?
Yeah, just on my channels, my
Okay.
website, nontoxicdad.com, and then where you can opt in for, some free solutions. And then I have a series coming up, Homesick Home, in April
Cool.
that people can opt into for free right now. It's just um, essentially a lead page, pretty simple, but I've been talking about that. So
Perfect. And then I'll conclude asking your top longevity tip. So I always ask that at the end, which you can just
got it.
echo what you've already said the entire show, but we will, because then I put all those longevity tips into an episode too.
Nice. Smart. Well, how's it going, Stephanie?
Well, I'm pregnant and tired, sleep deprived, but thankful. That's about where I'm at.
Oh my gosh. It's amazing. Like when you're pushing through life trying to make a difference, there's always it's like it never ends, does it?
It's just been a rough month. I mean, I'm old. Well, I should say I'm old, but I'm older. I'm 40 to have a baby. And I think it's just harder than last time. I'll say that.
Yeah, my wife, we had our
I know
last
you're
baby at
older. I don't know
40.
how old she was. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, she was 40. I was 48. So my
Yeah.
baby's now um will turn 2 in December.
Yeah. Awesome.
So where are these lists? Come on, Warren. So I'll just type them in because I have them like bathroom.
Laundry, bathroom, bedroom. obviously personal care products. You have so much content on that: deodorant, tampons, makeup, and I can guide you too. But I know if you want to know the toxin or whatever, I know it's hard to remember all that
Yeah,
stuff.
well, I have it here. So there's home edition.
Excuse me.
Home edition. I have so many videos. And then I try to put NTD in front of all of them. So for my scripts, so I can just go through them and oh, there's this one. And I printed out NTD and I can just scroll through it.
Okay, what's NTD? Sorry, I'm slow.
Non-toxic dad.
Oh, then you can find them. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And so I could find them, but now it's, I have so many 6 signs of mold toxicity, the possible #1 hormone disruptor, that's
We
phthalates.
should talk about mold when we get to air, because then after we go through the rooms, I want to say, okay, what about throughout the home? So we can talk about the air quality and water and those sort of things.
Great. I love all that stuff. Toxic baby mattresses. I just don't know why this is not coming up. 5. Oh, it's swaps. So that should come. Here we go. Here's 5 simple swaps. And they're all in one document.
Does that thing you have in front of your microphone really help? I bought one of those.
The
And then,
pops. No, I mean, unless you pop your peas
yeah,
a lot, it does for like if you're talking loud or, you know,
I couldn't figure out how to like get it to clip to my desk because my desk is so thick and I just ended up pitching it. But I'm trying to figure out if I need to get some new gear or if I'm going to take a break from the podcast because I've had 4 seasons and I'm kind of like, maybe I need a little break, have this baby, have a break, and then come back.
or I mean, there's lots of ways to do it.
I'm just going to rerun, do greatest hits and rerun a lot of episodes for
You can run
months.
a lot of
Yeah.
episodes. You could also do is just if it'd be nice if you have a conference coming up, just go and record a bunch when you're there and just
Like what
grab
you
all your
did. I
friends.
know that was amazing what you did. That was so smart. That was,
Now, what were you at my
yeah,
were you
Mindshare. Yep.
Mindshare? Okay.
Yep. Yep.
I was also at Disrupt and did the same thing. That's my brother-in-law, Dr. Isaac.
Oh, cool.
You know Dr. Jones, don't you?
Not well, but
Yeah. Yeah, he's a
I was thinking you were a chiropractor. Are you a chiropractor?
I I coached them for 18 years,
Okay. I don't know
but
why. I
I'm
just
not. So
assumed you were a chiropractor. Yeah.
people mistake me for that because I do adopt that philosophy quite a bit and I
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
like it. You're a chiro.
No, I'm a nurse practitioner. I have a doctorate
That's right.
degree, but I practice as a nurse practitioner. Yeah. But people think I'm a chiro too because most of my best friends are chiropractors. And I'm in Iowa and Palmer's here. And I think people just kind of, yeah.
So you can prescribe
Oh,
as a nurse.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yep. So I interviewed then the gal from Disrupt, Dr. Crystal Carey. She has the same degree as you.
I don't know. Sounds familiar, but I don't know.
We were discussing like what she was able to do, and she's like,
I
she's
mean,
essentially an MD,
yeah, I mean, it
right?
varies state by state. Like I have a doctorate degree, so I do go by doctor, but I'm not trying to piss off MDs. But in the state of Iowa, there's really no difference. We have all the same, like I've had a private practice for 12 years. There's no difference in from a legality standpoint, what I can do. I don't have to
That's
have
what
a
she said.
supervising physician or anything like that.
That's what
Yep.
she said. She said it's higher than she was like explaining. I'm like, so you're like a PA? No, not a PA. And I'm
PAs
like,
have to work under an
that's
MD.
the highest you can get in the medical side, but this is a nursing side and it's the top of the
Correct.
nursing side. And I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, it's like the Marines versus the Navy. But in the Marines, it's as high as you can get in that thing, and it's as high as you can get over here in the Navy. But the Marines, the Navy one is actually a little bit higher because you can do a little bit more. You have a little more power. She's like
More autonomy. Yep.
yeah.
Totally. Okay. Well, we can just, are you
Yeah, I
ready?
printed
Do
this
you
out.
have, okay.
Yep. We have let me just tampons, makeup, toothbrush, toothpaste, perfumes, and I can do toilet paper if we go in the bathroom,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Please do toilet paper.
You saw the thing
Car,
with Stephanie Gray, right?
that's me.
Not Stephanie Gray, with Heather Gray.
Heather, no.
She she connected so she loves my channel,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Oh, I
She
was eating lunch with her and she was like, I just met the non-toxic dad. Like you were like her.
yeah,
Anyways,
she's
so
definitely
she's like,
like
I am.
she's a groupie for certain people on Instagram because that's she wants to have impact, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So she wants to model, like me and a couple other guys and gals that she likes. And so she's super passionate about that. But anyway, she watched my deal on toilet paper, and then she had she watched some other video about someone that's all they use is a bidet or something like that. And she's like, you know what? Between that and Warren, I'm gonna switch. And she had this persistent chronic urination issue for 20 years. She switched her toilet paper, went to a bidet, and she doesn't have to pee all the time anymore.
Don't
Fixed it.
mention her name just because I don't want to call her out on the podcast, but you should say that.
It's got like 100,000 views on my Instagram. So
Wow.
I don't a mutual friend of ours, Heather, we can say.
Yeah, sure. Perfect.
Yeah, but
Um,
I think that's a great testimony to get people to switch to motivate them.
talk about toilet paper. You also, so from your channel, I wrote down razors, Carmex, shaving cream, deodorant. Yeah, we'll do this. Everything's editable. What are you eating? What are you?
This is a really good probiotic. No one really knows about it because they don't know how to market. Actually, I'm a partner in the company now. They have some friends overseas through another friend. They're like a strong Christian based company.
Yeah,
And anyway, they have this technology that was developed, back in World War II on what they do to probiotics because they used it for something. Then I can't remember the full story, but it's not patented, but no one knows the secret. The secret's held over country. They do something to they have this special spray that they put on the probiotics before they bottle them. And what it does, it puts them in a hibernated state, all of them, all 12 strains. It costs a little extra money because you can't just buy probiotics and throw it in a bottle. They put this strain in and a couple other, ingredients and obviously prebiotics and stuff like that. But anyway, they did a study against, one of your physician brands is just regular probiotics, right? And it has 10 times the survivability through the gut all the way through, and it gets exponential growth because you're putting in healthy young bugs that are able to get through the stomach acid. So not only are the bugs, the ones that do grow and make it are old bugs and are not as healthy. So you
sure.
get this exponential growth in your gut. So it's actually helped. I've been a partner in the company now for almost a year, but I just start really taking their probiotics after my daughter took it consistently and it cleared up her eczema on the back of her leg. So I was like, holy cow, because they have a baby,
Sold. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, kids brand. And then I start doing it because, even though I saw the study, it's Triskelion out of the Netherlands or something like that. They had the study done. So yeah, and then they have a new product they're coming out from this same that's from overseas. It's IGYs, and they have studies showing that which is somehow it helps with the gut the mouth microbiome, but it reverses gum disease and tooth decay, and they have the studies to prove it. That's going to be a really good product for them. So, anyway, so that's that. Do you want me to send you some?
Sure. I just was curious. I'm like, what are you taking over there?
Yeah, and do you use Cyto Detox?
No, I know I should. I need that's why what you heard what I'm gonna mention I heard you speak on, but
Don't mention that on. I don't even want to be connected to
yeah,
that
okay,
brand
okay.
yet. I just want to stay clean. I have a
Sure,
long-term play for impact member. It's like short-term, like, hey, let's talk about product. It's not where I'm at, right? I want to have big,
sure.
big
I
fish.
won't
I want to
mention the
be
brand, but yeah,
yeah, I want to be, um, yeah, just we can say like, what do you recommend? I'm like, I can say I like zeolites, but I don't want to say Cyto Detox. But
brand,
let's just
sure,
steer clear of that period.
sure,
But I
sure.
will send you some of that too. It's patented. I'm running studies. The stuff really works. Our patent covers the liposome, the micronization or the hydrolyzation of the zeolites into different size cages, cellular, blood, and brain, and then the cleaning process that where we get the heavy metals down guaranteed to these really low levels, which far exceed Prop 65. And the reason I did that is because as I tested zeolites, and I still test zeolites today, liquid zeolites um, across the board, and they say that even they'll claim like I do that there's no heavy metals in the cages. so that it can do the work it's supposed to do, and the cages are clean so we can bring in the bad guys, and and it creates higher capacity. They say that they have that, but then I run analytical. My partner at analytical lab will run a result, and they're just flat out lying. And then I do a background check on the owners, and they're freaking scam artists. And I'm like, I'm so sick of this junk in the industry. So everything, I mean,
You needed
you
to
can make
do
a
a post
product.
on that too. I mean, just to say how easy it is for, contaminated inferior products to just
Oh,
be out there. Yeah. Or
one
maybe
of
you already
my,
have. I don't know.
that's why I have, no, I will. I'm not going there yet, but I will. Like I have long-term goals
Yeah.
with my brand, and that's why I'm protecting it. One is I want to create uh more transparency in the industry and squeeze out the players so I can educate customers on what they're doing and why they're doing it. And that's going to push my non-toxic project brand that I have sitting. I mean, I have a few companies that, like Wellness is non-toxic project certified, where I run heavy metal panels on them. I'm doing Primal Life Organics,
Yeah.
Trina. I have Casadrinos olive oil. I'm doing a coffee brand of a friend of mine, Dr. Charles, his brand. I can't even think of it right now. Of course, Humarian, my own brands, a couple others, right? So I want to create a big movement and have a big crowd. So when I say
Yeah.
something, it'll just go out there, and they'll be questioning all these companies, and then only the clean brands will be able to answer that. And then the people that are actually trying to get well, it'll spread, and eventually, like a good disease, it'll spread and clean up the industry. So, and then I want to tackle toxic religiosity at the very end of my life, because I'm still learning about what that all looks like. I'm reading all kinds of books, and trying to really find, because what I found, I don't know what I mean, you're getting older too, but I used to just believe everything I heard from the pulpit to be true, right? That these guys just
Mm-hmm.
have it nailed, right? And the reality is they don't. They're just repeating what they learned or what
Mm-hmm.
they think to be
Mm-hmm.
the true, and they're not really looking for new information. They're just regurgitating the same information to
Yeah.
drive followers inside of their, but they're not deeply diving into who was Christ, who's God, you know what, you know
Mm.
what are the, how was this really written, what was the agenda. Let's really look at all aspects of it from an open mind, versus if you don't say these words, you're freaking going to hell, right?
Right. Where do you live?
So
What state are you in or city?
I'm in Utah,
Oh, okay.
and Utah really helped me open up to this,
Yeah.
as a very, you know classic
Yeah.
Presbyterian, ex-Catholic Christian. And it's allowing me to appreciate more about Catholicism. Even it's, but I see what a herd will do, with something like Mormonism and LDS, and it
Mm-hmm.
really opened me up to the possibility that, wait a minute, the same shit's happening to me, and I'm just believing blindly versus really diving for myself. And there's nothing wrong with believing blindly. Like, I'm not saying that people that are on that path, that's a good path and it'll
Yeah.
transform your life.
Yeah.
And LDS community is beautiful and they do a lot of good things. Um, but there's no freaking way, you know, uh, I would believe like that. Like, it's
Right.
so not open, right? And if you look at all the psychological things that they put into place, that's why it grows. Like, if you leave the church, you're not going to see your family
Right.
on
Right.
your planet, right? So they're really good at manipulating humans, and I've been manipulated a lot throughout my life, and it's just where I'm at. I'm able to see a little bit differently now, and I want, but I don't know what I have a lot of learning and growing to do before I tackle such a controversial topic like that. So now you know about
Well, I
why
could
I'm
talk
so
to you about a
careful.
lot of that too, but I I want to get rolling on this podcast.
It's
Very
good stuff
interesting.
though.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it is still parallel in a different way to your brand and in just a different,
Yeah,
who would have
non-toxic,
thought?
non-toxic faith.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so but imagine
beautiful.
tackling a topic like that
That's
and going.
huge though, and controversial, and you get some blowback for that too. But hold that thought. Let's go back
Let's
to
go.
okay.
I gotta go too. So
Okay, so
let's rock this. And my
I'm gonna push.
background looks fine.
You look
Um,
good. Yep.
I'm in focus.
Yeah.
Okay, the stuff behind me,
I'm
kind of
gonna
out of
put
focus. It should be.
you look great. I'm gonna push record on this other platform and I'll welcome you to the show, read your bio, say a couple things, and then we'll hear your story.
Let's go. I'm excited.
Okay, here we go. Welcome to another episode of the Your Longevity Blueprint podcast. Today, my guest is Warren Phillips, who's the founder of Non-Toxic Dad. Warren is a health warrior, battling fibromyalgia, anxiety, weight gain, insomnia, and numerous other health challenges for years. He refused to give up on himself. After exploring alternative and natural methods of heavy metal detoxification, dietary changes, and cellular support, restoring his health in the process, Warren became ignited with a passion for helping others facing similar challenges. He now devotes his time to educating people on non-toxic health solutions that can change lives. A passionate and energetic individual, he lives by what he says and he works tirelessly for the cause. Welcome to the show, Warren.
Dr. Stephanie, it's an honor and pleasure to be here. And these intros always, I kind of laugh at them, and they just come off like, almost disingenuous, and think
No,
even
but
though it's
that's
genuine.
you. It's so you.
It is
It's
me, but
perfect.
it I appreciate that, but I just, you don't like hearing like, kind of your backstory in a well-written way. Like I want to read it in like just a normal voice. I'm just a normal guy, right? That got sick trying to pursue, my life dream of cleaning up the environment and being outside, and it wound up getting me sick and then threw me on this journey. So I'm just a regular guy like everybody else, and I just want to help, truly do inspire people to make some decisions that can really transform their lives and make their lives better.
Well, I appreciate your humbleness. I want to get more to your story, but first, just for the audience, I just wanted to mention that I think I heard you speak at a healthcare entrepreneurial conference in 2019. I think it was 19 because that's when I had my first son. And I've since seen you on Instagram as a non-toxic dad. So you have great videos. You provide such excellent real-time advice on what to avoid in today's toxic world that I wanted to have you on the show for a reason. My listeners know chapter 5 of my book, Your Longevity Blueprint. Within that, I'm comparing the laundry room in the home to your liver and gallbladder detoxification organs in the body. At least in my house, there's a constantly in slew of dirty clothes that need washed, dried, folded, and put away. And that's similar with what we're exposed to, right? Our bodies are constantly detoxing. Now, we've talked a lot about on the show how to better equip the body to handle toxins, but listeners have heard me say this also. The best solution to pollution is dilution, meaning, how about we first try to minimize our exposure? And again, your Instagram is totally donated to those types of helpful tips. So before we get to those, really how to minimize our exposure, right? I want to
Right.
first hear your story. So, how did you become a health warrior and ultimately the non toxic dad?
I'll give you the short version. Some people love the long version, but we want to get to some solutions today and not belabor that. But it was a non-toxic dad. I'll just start with that. Why did I do this? People told me that I should do it and been telling me for 15 years I should do it. And I got off social media, didn't want to be on it. And then, you know, and we all have insecurities. So I'd like to address that an initial toxin, right? We believe what people say about us. You're this. This is who you are, right? And that might not be who you are. Then, or you tell yourself you're something that you're not, right? It's almost like you go on to American Idol and you think you're a good singer and you're not, and you sound horrible, or you don't think you're a good singer and you don't think you have any value to offer, and then someone challenges you to get on American Idol and you're freaking talented as all get out, right? So I didn't think I was going to have an impact. I didn't think, why would I do this, right? I don't want social media. I was kind of boo-hooing it. But someone challenged me, how do you, and I'm an all-American athlete. So I am persistent. I like to be really good at what I do. I put my heart into it. I'm teachable. I like to learn. I like to grow. I obsess over things. I do have this entrepreneurial side, right? I want to have impact. And when someone challenged me, how will you ever know, Warren, if you don't try? If you don't get into the race and see if you can have an impact? You say that you might not, or you don't. You're giving me excuses for failure, Warren. You're not giving me a solution for success. So don't waste your energy on excuses of why you shouldn't do something, like I don't want to be like those other influencers that don't know what they're talking about, or I don't want to be a poser, or whatever toxic thought I had for not doing it. So then when someone challenges me with a solution for success, I was like, okay, at least I'll give it a try. And I'm like, I'll give it a good try, 6 months. And at the beginning, right, I think many people do this in our lives. Like as a mom, we're just like, we're not we're not finding our rhythm yet, or you're at a job or in a sport, your brain kind of hasn't gotten comfortable with the idea, right? But eventually you fall into flow, right? And you're just, you know what? All the pain of trying and doing and someone scripting you or telling you what you should do about being a mom. And then you're just like, I'm just going to be a mom. I'm equipped to be a mom. I can do this. God's given me the tools to be an amazing mom. I have a heart, I'm kind, we're all these things. And then I just started being myself. And when I started being myself, I threw a camera on myself with my daughter in the store, and we did a Consumer Reports on the toxic lead in chocolate, right?
Yeah.
That all these wonderful chocolates, and I've done several videos on that. Chocolate like kale pulls heavy metals from the ground. So if you grow the cocoa plant, I think it's cacao plant. There's
We know
cocoa,
what you're talking
cacao.
about. It's fine.
Yeah, so the plant's growing and it's sucking up these heavy metals, right? Did it, 1.2 million views, start being myself, and then the channel became it fueled me because I got positive feedback loop as I'm
Sure.
actually making a difference.
Yeah.
So that's how non-toxic dad came about and I think sharing that story can help inspire people, especially in the new year, to believe in themselves, to love themselves, to know that you're a kind, amazing, brilliant,
Mhm.
uh, genius human that has so much to offer. And when we start telling ourselves that, opportunity happens, and God and the universe will connect with your belief and faith, and you'll do greater things. You'll be a better parent, friend, husband, wife, all those things. So I went to graduate school. I mean, I've always been into the environment. I was raised in the reduce, recycle 90s, right? Reduce, recycle, reuse. Was the big push. I went to a small liberal arts college, almost like a Princeton wannabe. It was called Allegheny College in Meadville, Pennsylvania. So I really got the awareness of that. So I went down to environmental studies. Well, actually, I was pre-med, then environmental studies. Then I moved into environmental science, which really wasn't science. It was just more environmental studies. And I love science. I was always good at it, in chemistry. And then so I double majored in geology because that's rocks and outdoors. And then I went on, and I'll tell another quick story. My professor there's some of the old wounds, told me that I wasn't smart enough because I didn't test well. I mean, I got good grades, but I didn't do like these brainiacs from Princeton and Harvard. We had these really smart professors, but he said, you're not smart enough. He looked at my GRE scores, but I was a little ADHD. And then at that point, they allowed me which is a physical test. And I took an online test and I did really well because I wasn't distracted. Went on to graduate school despite his uh, telling me that I shouldn't, because I should just go be a worker somewhere. Kind of mean, right? And I mean, I got straight A's as a graduate student, did really well. And then I became an environmental consultant to clean up the environment, right? We worked with the Army Corps of Engineers, federal use defense sites, also the National Forest Service, cleaning up abandoned mines. And in that process, we cleaned up mercuric oxide, which is mercury, cleanups on grain silos to spray grains with mercury.
You
Um,
physically did that, or
yeah, I
you just
did. I mean, I
advised on
hired
it?
people
Yeah.
people to help, right?
Yeah.
But my dad was I never shared this before. My dad was an excavator. He was a backhoe operator.
Yeah.
He worked at the steel mill, and the mill was going to shut down, right? So he created a side business that he worked two jobs. He'd work at the mill, walk all day. He was a foreman, and then in the evenings and weekends, he'd run his backhoe up and down the road, old John Deere backhoe. And then when it's shut down, right? He had this job, so he worked 7 days a week, and he came from extreme poverty. We started out in poverty, but my dad, of course, through his pain, wanted us to have a better life. So I could actually run equipment. So a lot of the times on these jobs, instead of paying government Davis Bacon wages, my environmental consulting firm would throw me on the excavators and backhoes and things like that to clean up these toxic waste. And a lot of times I didn't have my masks on. But a
That
long
was my
story
other
short,
question, is how is this parallel to your health story? Like, where does this contribute to some of the health challenges, like because you had exposures in that job, or no? Am I
yeah, for sure.
okay?
So this is where I think your body can handle so much. You probably talk about the toxic bucket, right? So I was getting filled up with these toxins. I was also getting equally as polluted, right? And I think to the extent that I think our homes, our environments, our choices in these marketed, the more you're marketed to about Tide, the more, even though you know it's toxic, you're going to use it anyway because they market to you so hard that eventually you believe you're not a good mom unless you're using Tide and your kids' clothes are nice and bright and clean with the brighteners that are toxic, with the toxic surfactants, because now your kids out there and it's representing, you, if you will. So they market that to you, right?
Yeah,
They're using
strongly. Yep.
yeah, they're using that to once again make you feel like you're less than if you're not using Tide. But if you're using Tide, you're a great mom and your kids are happy and your life is amazing. So, and marketing dollars do that. So you're literally programmed to believe that that's healthy. And so all these toxins that are in our home were far greater than what I was getting exposed to. But I was using all the toxic stuff too. The big thing of Tide, that I would just as a single guy throw into my laundry, and I'd use more probably than I needed to because I was, wanted to be clean and shiny, for to go to church, whatever. So in that process, yes, the abandoned mines, the heavy metals, the lead, the cadmium, the arsenic, all these toxins I was exposed to, and I was wearing personal protective equipment. But the level of toxins, say in your brand new car, you should be wearing, if the EPA, if I came in there as environmental consultant, took some air samples of your car and measured some of those chemicals, I would recommend you guys not live in that environment, right? I'm like, this is too toxic. This air is too toxic for you to breathe. It would exceed standards. There's, it takes, I think they went up using like 1,000 different combinations of chemicals to produce a new car, right?
Yeah.
And there's no regulation there. If you do have a new car, you have to wind down your windows,
Air
buy
it
it, let
out.
it sit
Yeah.
for, a few months hot in the sun, turn on the heater, off gas it, keep the windows cracked, like do some preventative. But that's essentially how the world is, right? If it's not in a
That's reality.
business,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, if it's not in a business, they get, like, there's no regulation on tennis balls, for crying out loud. And if a dog eats them or plays with them and chews on them, they die, right? It can really harm them. But you smell that new tennis ball, there's no regulation. No kid should be sniffing a tennis ball, or a baby mattress should have much more stringent regulations. It puts off a lot of VOCs, these nasty polyurethane foams, the PVZ covers on them, and it's just, we're discovering more and more that this toxic, money driven life to create modern conveniences is ultimately leading to the degenerative disease that many of us suffer from, like myself. I got it coming and going because my job was toxifying me.
Right.
You could have a moldy workplace, or you work in a flat roof school that has mold and you're getting mold exposed every day. You might not have a super moldy home, but now you're using toxic laundry detergents, toxic toothpaste, plastics everywhere, a plastic cutting board because someone told you that that's cleaner, and all this stuff, that is supposedly safe. And then your bucket overflows
Hmm.
and you're sick as well.
Body can't
So
keep up. Yep.
that's what I did. I mean, to end the story, I got so sick. I got these weird twitching and sleepless
Mm.
nights, and it just compounded. And I went to doctors when I was in Missoula, Montana. My dream place to live. I watched Brad Pitt and The River Runs Through It, right? And I'm like, I'm gonna move to Montana. Montana or bust. So I got a scholarship and everything when I went to U of M. But that dream came to an end. My parents said, come home. They knew I was sick, wasn't feeling well. So I was so sick. I didn't like go on disability. I'm just like, I'm just going to quit my job, sell my house, move home, live with my parents' basement. Everybody else was doing it. And I got sicker because I moved into a moldy basement. They're in Pennsylvania, a lot of rain. If you look at a hill, right? I'm a hydrogeologist as well, hydrogeologist, chemist, all those things in graduate school. And the water will flow from the top of a hill and it'll kind of exit at the bottom of the hill. And if you live at the bottom of the hill, you're going to have water pressure pushing into your home. And that's, every time it rains, it's just adding a lot of moisture.
Yeah.
That's what so you got to be careful. I say that if you live at a bottom of a hill and not at the top of a hill, you're going to get a lot of water pressure pushing on the side of your concrete. And it's going to add a lot of moisture Even if you have a barrier there, it's going to, water works hard and finds ways into your home, and it's going to add moisture. It might not leak into your home, but that humidity above 50% is going to grow mold. And I was in my parents' basement, um, I guess I'm a Gen Xer, right? And um, it, my symptoms went from a little bit of back pain and neck pain and anxiety to a place where I couldn't function as a human. I didn't know if I want to stick around. It was so bad.
Oh.
No hope and dreams of getting married or all the wonderful things that I'm able to experience now. It's why I'm an older dad. You want to know why I'm an older dad? Because I was so sick. There's no chance of me, let alone getting married or having the energy to provide for a family, right? So it took me years to figure this all out. Someone inspired me to say, "Hey, you're toxic." When the allopathic medical route, failed, right? Here's Effexor, here's pain pills, the classic question. Is this fixing the problem? No, but if it makes you feel better, stay on it. How long? The rest of your life. Literally that crazy. I'm like, really looking back, this is the best you can do is put people on drugs? Like when, but it's that thing we talked about earlier. You don't know what you don't know. And people are stuck in a mindset and this is how they function. It protects their brain. It's like, this is the answer. This is what I just repeat. We're running this
And those
script.
are conventional medicine, which we call the fire department. Those are their two tools, drugs and surgery, right? They're really good with those tools, and that's excellent for acute care, like you get hit by a car, whatnot. Like, yeah, you might need drugs and surgery. You need the pain pills and you need the surgery to put out that acute fire. But how I practice, right? And I know how you believe this as well. Functional medicine is the better option. We
Oh my gosh.
we say that we're more the carpenter, the contractor. We want to try to help repair and rebuild the body, aka the home. That's kind of the analogy I write about in my book because
You
we
have
have to
great
get to the root.
analogies, by the way.
We want to get to the root cause of the problem. So,
Yeah.
yes. So
I
medications
love how
are
you simplify things like for people to understand. That's a great gift, by the way, Dr. Stephanie. I just like so if I say something, right, that's complicated, you feel free to be like, you know what? Here's a great analogy for what you just said, non-toxic dad. Even though I try my best, I think you're better than I am. So,
Oh no, you do great. You do great.
well, I appreciate it. So that's that's a story, right? I mean, I got sicker, and I am a God guy, and I didn't off myself because I'm like, God, you have to have a plan. There's got to be a reason why I'm going through this, and I did learn about detoxification. There wasn't summits and podcasts and docu-series, and there wasn't even shows on TV. This was you're
A
crazy
while
person.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah, this is 20 years ago. You're a crazy person, right? For doing this. Everyone just thought I was nuts and had some mental disorder, right? So it was really tough. And there wasn't organic foods. Grass-fed meat was not at Whole Foods at this point. I mean, Whole Foods was around, but it was really hard to get organic, gluten-free, anti-inflammatory diet. It was, I mean, I guess it was easy. I just kept it simple: butter, vegetables, someone from a local farm, eggs, just trying to do all those things. But I did get well. I did detoxify, right? I followed
Yeah,
probably a
thank
lot of the
God.
steps
Yep.
that you're doing. And then when that happened, I got impassioned. I'm like, why doesn't mercury amalgam fillings will make you sick? Why does the government allow that? Like there's all these, like this can't be true. And I questioned it all, but I did fall into the holistic, remove the source and the body can do the healing mindset. And it made me so mad. I started educating practitioners and doctors and coaching doctors for 18 years, functional medicine doctors, chiropractors, medical doctors, you name it. And that was my mission for a long time. And then I decided, you know what? I'm gonna be the mission. I'm gonna go out there and educate. So now I'm healthy and happy and talking to you.
So that brings us to you being the non-toxic dad. You've pretty much already explained this, but in a few words, like, do you have a mission for the non-toxic dad? Like, what is your specific mission to date?
Yeah, to help people live a non-toxic lifestyle. And the reason I want folks to live a non-toxic lifestyle is because it elevates your life, right? It allows you to be more authentically you, to take your unique genius that's sitting inside of each and every one of us. And toxins are robbing you of energy.
Mm.
They're robbing you of the ability to think clearly. Toxins literally will make you think bad about yourself and judge others. So there's toxins really disrupt you at such a core level that you're not truly who you are, right? It's throwing off your microbiome, which throws off your serotonin and dopamine. Like it's such a root cause problem, and it's such a big problem. And I believe removing the source and removing the inputs of toxins into your life and allowing your body to even naturally lower its bucket. Unless it's super overflowing, they better get to a Dr. Stephanie or, or some of your colleagues to help them lower that bucket, because it's really, really hard. You can't just remove all the sources. But
Right.
if I can teach people that, if I can show them that, I think I can make the world a better place.
I love it. And really, that's what your Instagram channel, which I encourage all the listeners check out, is all about. So I want to go through some of that content, essentially asking you kind of top 5 changes we can make in our home to help our families thrive. But in asking that question, I almost feel like we should break this down room by room, because literally, and this episode is not meant to be depressing. This is meant to be empowering, right? That
Yeah,
there
yeah,
are things we can do to change to optimize our life. So maybe let's start in the kitchen. So and let's say food aside, because I want to come back to organic food at the end. So food aside, in the
yeah.
kitchen, what are some things that we should be avoiding? What are some, maybe you call them safe swaps? Like earlier you mentioned a plastic cutting board. Like what are some things in the kitchen that we should really be honing in on?
Yeah,
So
I
go
mean,
ahead.
so here's some of the things that we use daily in our kitchen, right? Food, of course, right? So what are things I think are having the biggest impact?
Mhm.
Your cookware can definitely be doing that, because you're doing that every day, especially with your kids. I always think about the kids, and if it's low levels of toxicity, kids have smaller buckets than we do, right? Exposure to things like lead specifically, which has no safe level allowed. There's not even a little bit, right? Not even prop 65 or below is healthy for you. So that's a big toxin. So we could say, that being said, the biggest lead exposures I think we get is from a lot of our, let me back up. I mean,
Is it
I think one
cookware?
of the,
I mean, does cookware have lead? I know
yeah,
glass can have,
I
but
mean,
yeah.
here's a shocker. Stainless steel can have lead, right? And if you see a Prop 65 warning label on your stainless steel pot, stay away. So it can be contaminated with lead. It's typically not, right? So I do like stainless steel. Here's a hack with stainless steel. Nickel is very toxic, right? And it's not quite as toxic as lead, but it's still definitely a neurotoxin, a major toxin that can disrupt all kinds of uh, hormonal pathways in your body as well. It's just a big one, right? Heavy metals are just nasty. And so when you have your stainless steel, which is 1810, has 10% nickel, you can get 18-0, but it's not very
Hmm.
convenient and it's hard to find. And it's typically, the quality isn't that nice. But when you're scratching and scraping stainless steel on stainless steel and just trashing that pan, you're knocking off nickel.
Right.
And nickel poisoning is real. Food is probably your highest exposure to nickel, unless you're just really hammering on your stainless steel. So I love stainless steel. I don't like anything nonstick. There's some
Right.
ceramics that are safe, but I just stay away from them anyway. I use them rarely. I do have a brand that's run some testing, and they say it's safe, but I still don't trust it, right? Because there is other chemicals there that they're not telling you about in their secret sauce for their ceramic pans. So my favorite thing for frying is the carbon steel. That's what chefs use. It becomes completely nonstick. You can literally flip eggs in it. I like it better than cast iron. Stainless steel I use for soups and sauces, because you can't use things that have high acidity on cast iron or carbon steel, because it'll just wipe off your nonstick. It'll just dissolve it. Essentially over cleans the pan. So I do use stainless steel for that, but then I just use wooden utensils. So that's a big swap. Get rid of all the ones that say that they're safe, the new Teflons out there. They'll even say on their website that they're safe, but if you ask them and write them, they won't tell you that it is, right? And they have no testing to back it
Yeah,
up.
they can't
So
prove it. Yep.
no, none of that's good. So getting back to lead, actually your biggest thing in your kitchen, it is a food. Your chocolate is loaded with heavy metals, loaded with lead and cadmium. Like, you got to eat that sparingly. Like, if you're giving your kids a lot of chocolate, or you're using a ton of cocoa or raw cacao, really call the company. I mean, there are some companies out there that are sourcing West African cacao, and they're really checking for the heavy metals, because heavy metals lead can get in through the drying process, mostly from dust in the air
Mm,
and some of the equipment that they use. but you can find it. It's just tough. It's
Do
more
you
like a
know
supplement.
brands? I mean, I don't care if we
I, I,
mention,
I, I mean,
you
I
don't want to
do,
mention.
but I can't think of them off the top of my head. I've kind
They're
of cut.
they're probably on your Instagram channel. Yeah.
Yeah, they're. I mean, there's a couple companies that have done Consumer Reports, and then another company that's tested like 500, not 500, maybe it was over 100 different cocoa and raw cocoa type brands. And but the way to do it is try to look for West African sourcing and just eat lower. I know we love dark chocolate. Just try to eat less. Like get a 60% cocoa versus 90%.
85%.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
interesting. Yeah.
it's so good for you. It's mineral rich. So what other things? A good exposure for lead once again. And this is where I was going before I remembered. Salt can be heavily contaminated with lead. So you really want to call the company, ask for their heavy metal analysis, and check and make sure they're at least Prop 65 or better compliant, which they should be. But if you use a lot of salt in your cooking, finding the lowest lead, and there's a balance there because you also want to get those trace minerals.
Right.
So Celtic sea salt doesn't have the lowest lead, but it has acceptable levels of lead for a salt, but it has some of the richest trace minerals. So, and the amount of lead you're getting, and because it's such a small amount, is,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
minute enough, it's not going to affect you. But, even some pink salts can be loaded with lead. They think that they're Himalayan salt. Himalayan salts can honestly have a little bit of lead into them, depending on where they're being mined from and at what layer of the rock, the geologic record they're actually mining. My geology comes into play with all this. So you just need to be careful with salt. And then more
Well, salt
importantly,
also has well, I think you mentioned anti-caking
anti-caking
agent.
agents and like just your general table salt, which can
Yeah.
have aluminum in it, right? So that's your regular Morton salt is just adding no value to your life.
Right. Right.
Get yourself a good healthy salt, and it's a fun thing to do, right? Because you can call the company, you can check in. I've checked in with several. Um, I don't want to. I'm not a brand guy. I gave you one Celtic. I don't want to sit there and just rip off brands. And things are changing. Like so, from one batch to the next, these things change, right? So you really need to work with transparent manufacturer. So where else can we
Mhm.
switch? Let's move on. Plastic containers are another huge one. I'll give you a couple hacks there. So just get rid of all your plastic containers. That'd be a great swap you can do in 2024. Just say, hey, I'm going to go to get rid of all this stuff. All right. Go to Costco and buy the glass one. Oh my gosh, it has a plastic top. Warren, is that toxic? You bet. You obviously don't want to microwave or do anything with that with plastic or heat that plastic because the microplastics and phthalates, they're going to come off. Phthalates are a massive top hormone disruptor, maybe the top testosterone disruptor out
Mhm.
there. Phthalates are put in plastic to make
But as
them a
long
little
as
more
you're
flexible.
if you're storing your leftovers in glass in the fridge with a plastic lid, I think you're pretty safe, right? You're just
Yep.
saying don't reheat it
Yeah,
with it. Yeah.
exactly.
Yep.
See, look, you made it simple. And here's the hack. Take some parchment paper. And I do this. So the other hack is so when you're it's hot and you put it in, then you slap the lid on, you throw it in the fridge. All this condensation and the
Uh-huh.
heat, don't do that. Also waste energy of your refrigerator because it's got to lower it down. I'm going to save you
Yep.
some money. So let it out, let it cool off so it's not going to create condensation and
We
heat.
always do that. Yep. Yep. Very
Yep.
wise.
And then put a piece of parchment paper if you just want to block
Cover
the
it and
food
yeah. Yep.
from doing that. We do that a lot in our home.
Sure.
So what
Well, and on the
else?
line of plastic too, back to cutting boards. So what's the swap for cutting board? What do you like the best?
I mean, I love like the heirloom solid piece of wood. And so if I ask someone on Etsy to make me a board and they usually glue them together and you don't know if they're using like I've called it written a couple of these people on
Yeah.
Etsy and they're
Yeah.
like, yeah, we're not using non-toxic. Essentially, we're binding it with plastic glues. And he's like, can you tell me the right glue? I'm like, you figure it out. But like Titebond 2 and some of those glues are definitely less toxic, but they don't bind as well. So you get those solid wood boards that are bound together and they're using these um, plastic glues. I mean, you're chewing on plastic, so you're still getting plastic exposure. And then they coat the stuff with mineral oil because that's the industry standard, putting mineral oil on that,
Mm-hmm.
which is petroleum, which you don't want as well. And there's going to be traces of polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, PAHs, um, left over, which are carcinogenic and toxic. So what I do is ask them, can you give me a solid wood board or ask a local artisan, they can make these for you, and just don't treat it. I'll treat it myself. Or, hey, can you treat it with organic beeswax? And they'll gladly do that for you. So you just buy your, whoever does the cooking, the husband or the wife, because it, can be a lot of,
Yeah.
role reversals or whatever you want to say in the world today, which is amazing because I'm a big believer, obviously, in women leadership, because I think they have the best leadership capability. So I'm actually looking forward to a really solid minded woman being president someday, because I think they're more communal and you can get more done. So anyway, I just think that women are geniuses. I've noticed that, just from everything that I've grown over the 50 years. I'm like, wow. And I have a lot of women leaders inside of the organizations that I've been a part of, and they're just the best. They get so much done. They're not these testosterone yelling toxic males. So anyway, that's a whole nother topic. But I say that
So
just to cover
you,
for my the role reversal thing, right?
so a
So
plain slab of
buy them
wood.
a
Yeah.
a wood, beautiful, solid wood, non-treated or treated with beeswax or even MCT oil or olive oil, and you're going to really eliminate all those microplastics. And microplastics are showing up in all of our tissues and organs now, and they're known to cause inflammation. Now there's nanoplastics because the science has gotten better. They don't have to look at it with a microscope. They're able to measure these nanoplastics that are even more prolific. So it's breaking down into smaller and smaller pieces. And these nanoplastics are 100% toxic no matter what, because they're getting into your tissues and organs. The bigger ones, they can possibly just pass through you. But these nanoplastics, this is going to be the next big thing that's going to be coming out in the literature and in the studies. You may not hear about it besides on channels like mine, but nanoplastics are going to be another big deal. So the plastic exposure you're getting, whether from a board or a bamboo that's smashed together and turned into a big board, or you're using nasty plastic, you think that it's safe plastic cutting boards. It's not. It's just credit cards and credit cards of plastic you're eating on a monthly basis. So those are some great swaps for in the kitchen.
Yeah, when you put it that way, yeah, we don't want to eat credit cards. Okay, so great tips for the kitchen. Let's move on to the laundry room. Now, you've already alluded to Tide not being good. So, what is it in detergent that is so toxic? And how do you feel about dryer sheets too?
Yeah, the detergents have a lot of petroleum-based toxins that contain toxic chemicals, right? Like I mentioned before, there's volatile organic compounds. There's these. I don't. I'm trying to think of the right term for their surfactants that they're using, but these are toxic surfactants. They're not natural. They're not going to biodegrade. That's why the natural movement has been good, and the sustainable movement has been helpful as well, because even the green movement, a lot of people don't like that movement, but inside of the green movement, right, there's the let's be friendly to the environment, and if it's friendly to the outdoor environment, it's going to be friendly to our bodies, right? So there's in these detergents, there's brighteners that are toxic. The fragrances are the number. Say brighteners are at a scale of 1 to 10, 5 toxic. The fragrances are an 8 or a 9 toxic. So fragrances are some of the most toxic things that we expose ourselves to. They're neurotoxins, they're inflammatory, they're carcinogenic. They hide a bunch of other chemicals that they put in there so that they stick around. Do you notice you hug someone with perfume on and you look at that jacket even 3 years later, it still stinks?
Yeah.
That's not just the fragrance, it's the phthalate that
Yep.
helps bind that to the fabric, and you're stinking like that chemical for years. So they put that,
Yep.
and when someone shows up that's washes their clothes and fragrance, or they're using bounce baby dryer sheets. And that's one of my terms that I used to say. I'm like, that's bounce baby. That's someone just walked in that's using bounce, right? And then you add fabric softeners, which have more petroleum based chemicals that make it soft, right? And we're told once again, this is clean, this is fun, this is no static cling. Like all these, we're being lied to and marketed to in such a way that that concoction of detergent, dryer sheets, and fabric softener is putting tons of chemicals on the biggest organ of your body. You're not, and then you're breathing them. Whatever breathes goes right into your bloodstream, right? So breath is one of your biggest toxic exposures. Your eyeballs are taking these chemicals in. That's a toxic exposure. Like I just did a video or a story where I had a full face mask on because I didn't want to get these oxidizers on my breathe it or through my eyes. So that's a gate of toxic exposure. So you're
Which I
breathing
don't
this.
think we often think about. Yeah.
No, we
Yeah.
don't. Your eyes are a huge, like if you're in a, say you have completely covered up and you get into a toxic environment, and you have your eyeballs out and it's toxic and it can kill you, it'll kill you just as quickly. I mean, the toxin will go right through your eyeball and you'll lie dead. We learned that in hazardous waste cleanup. If you're, because I did that stuff too. I was HAZWOPER trained. I was a HAZWOPER manager to clean up toxic spills, you know?
No,
So
thank you. Yeah.
yeah, but your home's a toxic spill. Your
Yeah. Yeah.
laundry
Yeah. No,
room
I
is
get it. I get it. I
essentially
get it.
a
Yeah.
toxic spill. You should
Yeah.
have a full face respirator on. That's how toxic this stuff is. And it's such a simple switch, because I get back to these non-chemical natural surfactants that are plant derived, that are almost completely non-toxic. And then you add vinegar as your softener, and it's anti-static as well. And then you add dryer balls, right? You can make your own
Mhm.
pastes to, scrub out stains. You can use essential oils. It's great to remove stains. I think we use eucalyptus, I believe,
Yeah.
to remove stains. And so, that's one of the biggest areas. And they've measured the the exhaust of your dryer, and it's loaded with all these chemicals, because it's not only the dryer sheets, it's all the chemicals, the tides, the toxins, the brighteners that are off gassing. And we've talked about that a little bit. Off gassing, just like from a crib
Mhm.
mattress,
Mhm.
right, into, outside. And it's, you think about this. Don't you get, if you live, I used to live in a townhome, and then I could smell when someone was doing their laundry, and I hated it because it stunk up all outside. Like the whole, it could be across, 500 yards away, and you can smell someone's dryer vent. I mean, that's not normal.
No, it's not. I remember when I moved into my house, I don't know if this was 15, 20 years ago when I had a couple roommates, and I literally set the rule from the very beginning back then, like no dryer sheets. You cannot put dryer sheets in these machines. I just bought 2 new units. And I was so ticked off when some of my roommates used them, but they didn't realize, like, no, that will linger. Like that is contaminating my machine. And now my clothes also. It's not just your load, it's contaminating my load. But now, truth has come out. So I think they understand now. But that was great. Good tips for the laundry room. Let's go to the bedroom next, since you kind of mentioned like a crib mattress, whatnot. So what are some things in the bedroom, again, that we may not be thinking are toxic that we really need to consider making safe swaps for?
I mean, the biggest thing is definitely your bed, and all your comforter and your sheets,
Bedding, yeah.
and then obviously the mattress that you're sleeping on. Now, if you have a 4-year-old, you know, polyurethane foam mattress, most of those toxins have off gas. But then you're like, oh, my back is sore, because we go to mattresses all the time. Like if we fix our mattress, we think our headaches and our back pain is going to go away, and that's not necessarily true a lot of the time. So I did that when I was sick and had fibromyalgia. Not at a bad place, but I'm like, oh, I must just need to get a new mattress, right? That's kind of like the fix. And then we have this new fancy foam mattress that's off gassing tons of toxic chemicals, not just the foam releasing toxic VOCs, like really hormonal disrupting VOCs, especially in that first 6 months to a year. But they also, because those things are made
Mm.
of petroleum, they're very flammable. So then they have to put highly carcinogenic flame retardants, which really aren't that helpful, but they put them on anyway. And there's natural ways to do it. You can do wool wrap, and there's some non-toxic treatments as well that are more natural. They're still considered chemicals, but they're natural chemicals, if that makes sense, that they could do, but they don't, because it's more expensive to do it the right way. They actually spray your airplanes with them all the time. And your airplane, if you fly a lot, you get a very, very high level of flame retardant exposure. Just another little side tip, because that's what I like to do.
You need to take your
And
glutathione or your N-acetylcysteine when you travel. I mean, there are things you can take to
yeah,
minimize
there is
that
the
burden. But yes, no, you're totally right. Yep.
ramp up your detox
Yep. Yep.
pathways. And then they have, a lot of polyvinyl chloride, PVC, and stuff inside of those mattresses as well, especially in baby cribs. So you're just getting loaded up. So when you get a new mattress, go natural. The nice thing is, I had to like call around and get my organic bed from another country, because they didn't even make them in the US when I wanted one. Right. And so now the price has come way down, and they're very reasonable. They're sourcing these materials. The materials are getting, because there's a market for it, more people are making 100% natural rubber latex. They're doing these non-toxic soy-based foams, even that don't off gas as well, for furniture. So the green movement, the eco movement, doesn't mean it's not non-toxic, but it has produced a lot of supply chain where these companies are able to get these prices way down, and you can get a lot of non-toxic things. Things are now LEED certified, GOTS certified for fabrics. So there's definitely a wonderful movement of non-toxic living driven by, because of podcasts like this, because of the education we're able to do on Instagram. This is wonderful.
Yeah, keep supporting those brands because then there will be more of them. Yes. I know you're not endorsing any brands either, but I did get, I think it was a Naturepedic organic mattress. Is that right? Naturepedic? Can't even remember. For my son, which was organic and supposedly non-toxic. And we got avocado mattresses at home, which aren't quite as comfortable as the toxic ones, but they're
No,
safer.
was it? Was it organics? Is that the one like that really? It's pretty pricey.
I mean, they were pricey. I don't know why it's
Purple,
no, it wasn't the purple one.
because there's an organic.
Because obviously the listeners are going to want to know, okay, so
Yeah,
what
purple
mattress
isn't
should I get
purple
my
isn't non-toxic, but they're I believe that they're rubber technology that's patented. There's other companies that use it because it doesn't off gas. It's not non-toxic itself, but has zero VOC, zero emissions.
I,
And then they wrap it in organic, but those are expensive
I've
mattresses.
seen
But there's
that Naturepedic. I
my
googled it. That is what I got for my son. Naturepedic, 100% organic, certified for a crib mattress. That's what I got him.
Yeah,
And it, I mean,
Naturepedic. Okay,
yep,
not
yep,
yeah, Naturepedic is a brand. My
yep,
Green
yep.
Mattress is another good one, right?
Sure.
They're actually super reasonable and comfortable. Yeah, so and then just get organic sheets are everywhere. You can buy them at Target,
Yep.
for crying out loud. So go there and just wash them. They'll get softer. And here's the thing: if you go bamboo, bamboo's not all created
Yeah, I was going
equal.
to ask about that because
Yeah,
you've
so
had some
bamboo
posts
sheets
on
are
that.
great. They're soft, but you're going to want to get lyocell bamboo, and make sure it's lyocell, because they're non-toxic solvents that they use, in the products. Some of they're still strong oxidizers to create the pulp and stuff. So, I mean, wash them a few times, so they can't irritate your skin if you're really, really sensitive. But for the most part, lyocell bamboo is great. A great product. I love organic cotton because for sure they're just organic cotton. They don't
Yeah.
have to make the pulp from the bamboo. So those are great options, that we use. And then your comforter, you can do down, feathers. Wool is great. Kind of smells when you first get it. It smells like a sheep, but it off gases that sheep smell after a while until you get it wet again. But
Sure.
it's, some of the best. And it's also a lot of these organic mattresses use non-toxic flame retardants. I mean, because they're organic mattresses, or they'll wool wrap them, and wool isn't flammable, where it exceeds the match test, for that standard. They literally have a match test to see, whether it can
Wow.
pass or not.
Wow. I've heard you say that your skin eats everything you put on it. So, like, do you buy like the t-shirt you're wearing right now? Is that I'm kind of calling you out here, but is that like organic cotton? I mean, do you like with underwear and t-shirts, like those sort of things? Have you made safe swaps in those departments?
Yes, I've almost gone, like, I'm completely, especially over the last year and a half, being non-toxic dad, I have learned a
Yeah,
lot myself, right? So
yeah,
some of these are new learnings for me, right? I had a lot of organic stuff to begin with, my
sure.
underwear and my t-shirts and everything. I always
Yep.
put my base layer, but I still had, and I still have. It's tough. I'm like, I've gotten rid of almost, but like I'm not in an all wool jacket when I go skiing, because when you hit the ground, it hurts because you stick, because wool sticks. So, but I've been switching, almost getting rid of all my polyester. I still have some like polyester shorts, but I'm getting all organic shorts. I should be here soon, right? I had a few things that are polyester. This shirt is from Mexico. I usually wear just a plain black hacked organic t-shirt, cotton t-shirt.
You should
Today I
just
put
start your
this
own
on.
brand, the non-toxic dad clothing line. I mean, there's a big opportunity there.
Maybe someday, right? In all things, right? I'm actually been approached already by textile companies that have organic stuff that say, "Hey, you should do a brand," but, that's a big distraction at the
You
moment
got a lot
to
on your
launch.
plate. Yeah.
Yeah, to launch something like that. But there are some really good brands out there. there's so many good companies. You just have to look for them. And the nice thing about being non-toxic dad is a lot of these companies just pop up on my feed because I'm talking about it and my cell phone is now listening, which was the reason I got rid of my cell phone. But it's actually great marketing. These are things I am interested in.
Mhm.
And I'm finding a lot of great brands, and that's just full, either they're bamboo and they're the right kind of bamboo, they're lyocell. Because a lot of the bigger companies that started off with lyocell are now using the rayon, or there's another name for it. I'll think of it in a second, but the bamboo that's just essentially using tons of toxic chemicals and have toxic chemical residues. So you don't want to use those companies. You want to support ones using the non-toxic organic, the non-toxic processing of the organic bamboo. So yes, there's a ton of organic clothing. Polyester, I think there is a video I have out there on polyester underwear being highly effective male birth control because it
Mhm.
doesn't breathe and there's this electric static charge that it makes. And I just saw another study that someone did the other day is just there's an energy essentially in clothing, right? And there's a frequency. And so say a natural product, um, like wool has a 5,000 uh, energy units like that align with your body versus polyester puts out a field or an electric field that's like 10, right? It's just dead
Hmm.
clothing. And I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
sure if that's the reason why, but they said the electrostatic charges that are created mess with your hormones and the motility of uh,
Sperm.
the
Yeah.
sperm and just how everything works. And they did
Yeah.
a study on women, dogs and male dogs, and the same effect. They put for infertility, they put the natural fibers on the female dogs. They're able to get pregnant, right? They put the polyester on the female dogs. They weren't able to get pregnant, right? So these plastics and these chemicals, and when I start reading that stuff, I'm like, I'm getting rid of anything that's polyester, and I'm fighting with my children. My oldest daughter, because she loved Lululemon, and I hated it before. I called it spun oil. You're wearing spun oil. Even years ago. But you want nice things for your kids, and the options aren't that great out there. But man, after all this, I'm like, you got to get rid of this plastic wrap you're put. It is literally plastic
Mhm.
that you're putting on your body, and we chew on plastic too. Some of the bubble gum is made with polyethylene. So, plastic. You're chewing literally on plastic. So you got to get gums like Glee gum, and they're just they're not as fun. These other companies put a lot of time and energy into how it feels in your mouth, and so they change the chemical structure and they do all this testing. Whereas natural, it is what it is.
Mhm. Yep. Okay, we have to go to the bathroom because I feel like that is a top source of exposure for sure. We could spend a lot of time here, but maybe you can mention what you think. Again, kind of the big
I'll go
needle
through.
movers are in the bathroom. Yep.
Yeah, I'll go through this one quickly because I've given you a lot of detail. But tampons, don't put plastic inside of your body, and that's what you're doing. You're putting nasty
Chlorine,
toxic,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, chlorine and fibers, destroying your vaginal microbiome, throwing off so many things that are so critical to your health, your female health, your hormones, inflammation, you name it, right? Leading to we have all these inflammatory uh, women disorders, and where's inflammation coming from? These chemicals. So switching out to 100% organic tampons, no titanium dioxide, they sneak that in. Switch out your makeup, make it easy. If you can't eat it or pronounce it, don't put it on your face. There's lots of good natural brands out there. That's going right through into your skin. Your
We've talked a
toothbrush,
lot about the environmental working group, database. There's
yeah, they're
several
good.
databases now, yeah, that you can screen your products through. Yep. But yeah, go ahead. I think you said toothbrush or
EWG,
toothpaste. Yeah.
yeah, toothbrushes. I mean, you shouldn't be scrubbing microplastics on your teeth. I mean, that's just an obvious one that we kind of miss,
It
even
sounds obvious,
myself.
but yeah, but I did too until I heard you say it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And my son is,
Yeah.
as I'm trying to brush his teeth, he's clenching on it and he's definitely grinded on that plastic. It's like, oh my gosh, I gotta swap
Yeah,
those
we
out.
just didn't think about it because, I
Right.
mean, I had bamboo toothbrushes, but then, my dentist gave me like an Oral B or something, and then you're
I got
like
the
grabbing that
electronic
every
one.
once in a
And,
while, and you're like, what am I doing? Right. So that all got thrown out, a while ago, and I'd use a bamboo electric toothbrush with a, you know,
well, I'm
bamboo
happy to
top.
hear you can get bamboo. I didn't know they were bamboo electric toothbrushes. I will have to get one of
Yeah, the
those.
bottom part's plastic, but the
But
top's
the top,
bamboo.
yeah, yep,
Yeah, yeah.
yep.
And I mean, they don't run like an Oral B or the other ones, right? I mean, but you don't need that sort of like
You
we
just need to
make the mouth
disrupt
as
the
like
plaque. So as
toxic,
long
right?
as,
And
yeah.
we grind on it. We want, because our mouth and our teeth reflect so much, right? Um, uh, and people, it's a beauty thing, right? So when it's a beauty thing, we really get after it, right? And because it's one of those big motivators for us as humans. But you don't need that on your, I mean, you don't even need to floss that often, right? I mean, you over floss, it damages your gums. There's like some people have like a no floss. I'm a no poo guy now. After I did an interview on my Instagram channel with Steven Wright, and he hasn't used it for 15 years, and he has thick hair like me. I haven't used it since. I mean, I've washed my hair probably 4 times in the last 6 months. It doesn't smell at all, right? And I mean, I was getting itchy, like dry scalp, and I'm not, you know, I don't see skin showing up and, on my desk because my hair was so, not my scalp was so dried out, right? So a lot of these things we think that we need, we actually don't need. My daughter is no longer washing her hair very often, and she has like thicker hair. She went to a specialist that works with curly hair. She's like, "You don't wash your hair that often, and this is what you do." And her hair is like amazing. Before it was frizzy, and now it's not frizzy, and it's beautiful and curly
The
and
natural
gorgeous.
oils are still there. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
and the microbiome, and you know, that's why you got to watch this stuff. So the toothbrushes, and then the toothpaste, of course, the fluoride, the titanium dioxides, the
Which
the
I think you said is
colorings.
also in mouthwash, if I remember right.
Oh,
Maybe,
mouthwash. They put
maybe. Huh?
freaking triclosan in your mouthwash, and your mouth microbiome. Like, you need those bugs. They're connected to your heart health. Like, clear research that the oral microbiome is so critical.
And if you have
For your
bad breath
oral
and
health.
you feel like you need a mouthwash, there's a root cause of the problem. That could be low stomach acid. I mean, there are a lot of other reasons why you might have that
Yeah.
bad breath. Yeah.
Yeah. So get rid of all that stuff, right? And the toxic blue, like there's just a sea of toxic blue, just run away.
What about razors, shaving cream for men specifically?
Yeah, that's a weird one, right? Is that propylene glycol and potentially BHT, which is a big hormone disruptor,
Yep.
are in those lubricating strips. And you never really think about it because, well, polypropylene is a solvent. It sucks up moisture, and that's why it just runs so smoothly. And I used to get skin irritations and not know why. And then it dawned on me, it's this stinky strip. And a lot of people get that and they just rip it off, right? And I never thought to rip it off. I'm like, too busy. But then I saw this Danish study about the toxins, the BHT, and I knew it was yeah, polypropylene or propylene glycol, not polypropylene. I'm getting my toxic fabrics mixed up with my toxic solvents, but propylene glycol, which is not antifreeze, by the way. People always in the health industry always say that's antifreeze that's in food, or that's antifreeze. It's not. That's ethylene glycol, I
Mm-hmm.
believe. Ethyl glycol is antifreeze,
Mm-hmm.
two different chemicals. So
Mm-hmm.
natural health people get that one mixed up.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've done is I just went back to what my dad used to use, a safety razor, and I get a much better shave. And there's so many organic soaps or just organic bar soaps that you can use for shaving cream. It's absolutely amazing. It's kind of fun. I just made it fun. I have a little routine now where I use a little boar bristle brush and get foam on my face, and it gets such a better shave. It's a lot more fun. It's a great gift. And women, the same thing. They can absolutely use these safety razors, and there's some really good ones out there. So, and then obviously back to perfumes and colognes, get rid of that stuff. On a scale of
Mm-hmm.
1 to 10, that's the one of the most toxic things you can put on your body.
Yeah. I just want to mention also, being that I already shared with you, obviously I'm pregnant. Well, I probably will have had the baby by the time this launches. But one thing that I got asked a lot by other even pregnant patients is, are you choosing to dye your hair through your pregnancy? And I honestly, you look online and they say, oh, hair dyes are safe. Well, online says a lot of things are safe. But I chose, at least through the first trimester, to not put any dye on my scalp. I did give in second trimester when my hairdresser said, I can put some highlights on that aren't really going to touch your scalp. But I said, I need to find some studies. And there are studies equating hair dye to increasing risk of low birth weight in infants. And so you also got to be thinking, not just, I felt like this fit in the bathroom category, right? We're talking about shampoo and conditioner, but
Yeah, yeah, it's a good one.
hair dye also is really important. And as you know, I'm not ready to, I have quite a bit of gray. I'm not ready to totally go gray yet here. But there are things that you can do. Like, again, I waited first trimester to not put any dye on my scalp. And then I still, even second trimester, was able to avoid that. And obviously, you want to try to see your hairdresser who chooses safer brands of dyes and whatnot. So I wanted to mention that. But
That's a
last
great share.
last ask for the bathroom is toilet paper. I have to ask about that because I know you've had some posts. So how toxic is our toilet paper potentially?
It can be super toxic, especially to women, right? And there's clear research on the formaldehyde and dysbiosis, in the in in I always want to say I said it right the other. I hate saying the word vagina because I'm a guy, right? But in your
It's just a science technical term. It's
yeah, I
a
know, but
anatomical. Yeah.
I have I'm still working through my self-confidence just like the rest of everybody else. But it's really can cause lots of inflammation. We talked about it, and it's just not safe, right? And so the chlorine, the formaldehyde they put in there can cause all kinds of just short and long-term issues.
Sure.
And the other thing that I found that was really interesting as I studied this is that the amount, especially we think we're doing better for the environment, so we get recycled paper. It's like, yes, reduce, recycle, reuse. I bought that stuff too. You throw that underneath our microscope, it's loaded with microplastics because plastics get into the recycled paper. They're allowed so much that gets through. And now you're putting microplastics, which are being shown to embed in those soft tissues. And then they move their way up into your body and they cause inflammation, right?
So
Irritation.
what's the
And
alternative? Like what time? I mean, is it just organic toilet paper or what is the
They don't really have organic toilet paper. They do have, there's safe, there's toxic bamboo, and there's just like with clothing, there's toxic, solvents to make the bamboo pulp to create the fiber, and then there's toxic ways. So there's some, and some of them have like forever chemicals, and depends how they're processing the pulp. You can get great bamboo underwear, and you can get, it's still way better, I would say, than your classic white bleached soft where they're putting petrochemicals and to make it soft.
yeah,
Uh, it's way better than that, but there's some really good bamboo brands. I can't think of any off the top of my head.
sure,
Plant Papers, a better one that comes top to mind, but I have a list in one of my videos that talks
sure.
about the different brands. So
Great.
bamboo,
Yeah.
the non-toxic brands are really good. And then we have a mutual friend, Heather. Just recently, I did a post with her and a podcast with her, and she had this chronic. She had to chronically urinate. She would literally have to map out her stops if she was driving somewhere at distance because she had to pee so often. Just this chronic annoying issue for 20 years. She watched my video, and then some other comedian talked about a bidet. She's like, I'm going to try this. And she switched to a bidet, and that issue of 20 years is now gone. So it was causing some sort of irritation
Irritation.
that
Yeah.
felt like that she had to pee all the time, almost like an inflammation that was happening, causing her to pee all the time. And now that problem is solved. So these changes can have a big impact. And chronic infection um, in that area can go away.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a great testimony. Thanks for sharing. We pretty much have gone through the main aspects of the house, but I do want to touch on two other things quickly, which are the water and the air quality, and ask you personally kind of the changes you've made in your home. And I've already shared on the podcast some of the changes I've made with mine, but why is drinking filtered clean water so important to our health? And why is city water really so bad for us? And then I want to talk about water and then air.
Okay, so water, especially in my hydrogeology days and knowing how to clean up water. I mean, I studied a lot of this stuff in my graduate work. The wastewater treatment plants are not designed to remove drugs. So pharmaceuticals definitely get recycled, and especially if you're getting your water from, if you live next to a river, it's just being recycled over and over again. And these pharmaceuticals and chemicals are just not getting out. So it's building up, especially if you live downstream. If your local water source, even if it's a well right near a river, it's still dragging that water seeps down from the river into that well. So the point of it all is this, your water's full of, now they know for a fact, forever chemicals, phthalates, they're showing up at higher and higher levels. Uh, Microplastics even in are showing up. Heck, even viruses like the virus of today and the byproducts of that virus are showing up even in our local water supply. We have some of the
Wow.
highest levels of
Yeah.
that virus. So all of this is in our water supply. And then they add fluoride, which has no business being in there. Then they have to kill it at the plant or tower with chlorine. And so that's not good. And
Mhm.
now you're drinking all these chemicals, and the very thing it needed to flush your lymphatic, fuel your cells is now super toxic, right? And that's just something we do every day. So to clean it up, I love RO, right? Because
Yep.
it takes out most everything. It leaves a little bit behind. Distilled takes out everything. But people are saying, well, I don't want to filter because it's gonna be like all the minerals are gone. Good, because
Add the
they're
minerals
along with
back in. You can,
toxins.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's an excuse. That's a marketing ploy, right? There's no reason you should have those chemicals in there. So if you can remove them, you can always put the minerals back in. We can add salt, we can add lemon, we can do things to make our water living again. So that's
Mhm.
why I love RO. There is a chance that nanoplastics could come from that RO um, filter membrane. I'm looking into that. That's some new science that hasn't confirmed or denied whether that's true or not. So we'll go there, but we'll figure that out along the way.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm worried about. I put RO in my house, but okay, the tubing to get the RO to the faucet, I'm like, that's it's running through plastic tube. I mean, I'm still wondering about the whole process and like
It's
how
polyethylene tubing. It's not PVC, which is what your water's coming into your house with. Likely, there's most of the main water lines. They're moving to steel again because of this, because of the toxins, because they're using PVC, which is worse.
so what it is
Um,
though, is that better than PVC? Are you saying
yeah, I think yeah,
yeah,
PVC is worse for
bad, yeah.
sure. PVC pipes worse. I mean, in your home, you want copper pipes, for sure if you're building a new house. But yes, there's a little bit of plastic, but they have a carbon filter typically at the end, so it's going to pull out a little bit of the organic compounds that come along from that pipe, and it's the contact time is pretty low.
Sure.
So it's not sitting in there. It's not acidic. It's not hot. So
Right.
there is contaminants, a small, minute contaminants, but you're cleaning out the bulk of them and trading it off for a little tiny bit. So there
Sure.
is this trade-off of toxins that
Yep.
you're having. But you're right. There's, and the RO systems themselves, the membranes are made of plastic. Tiny, tiny membranes that are trapping all the toxins. So there is a chance, especially where they're finding it is in bottled water. They're finding these nanoplastics and microplastics from industrial RO filters, like big ones that are under high pressure. So that's what we really need to watch out for. So I wouldn't drink a lot of our favorite plastic bottles of water have microplastics, say Dasani or whatever that's RO.
Yep.
So just try to stay away from that stuff.
Every time I travel, I just had a little overnight with some of my girlfriends. We rented a cabin and it was a lot of fun. And I sure did bring several of my, my own stainless steel glasses with water because I didn't know what water was going to be available there. And I'm like, I'm not going to drink that crap. And
When I go
I,
camping, I do
yeah,
the same thing. I fill
yeah,
up big glass
yep,
containers.
yep,
But if there's a well there, like if you're camping and there's a well, you can just bring, you don't need an RO filter at that point. You can use like a Berkey travel
sure,
water filter or something like that because it's going to filter out like heavy metals and things because you
yep,
can get some of that stuff out without a full on RO or distilled system. But there are some nice distilled systems out there if you want to get rid of everything. And I take RO water. I'm really showing my hand, but I'll take RO water and then I'll distill it if I have time, and I'll drink that every once in a while as well. So
sure. Purist there. I did have Laura Adler on the show and she recommended, for those who can't afford RO, if you really want to know what you need, you can test your water. I think the website
yeah,
she recommended was Tap Score, and I did that here at the clinic just to see how bad the water was because at home I have this fancy system and we have a whole house charcoal filtration system for showering and bathing, right? But the RO is more just for the drinking water, at least at our house. So I thought, what am I going to do at the clinic? And it turns out I don't need a big fancy system here at the clinic. The water was not as bad as I thought it may have been. So you can use results from something like a tap score to help guide you in how fancy of a water purifying system you really need. So
Laura
just keep
Adler. I
that.
haven't talked to her in years. I need to call her. Like that's an old name. Yeah, she's an
She's
OG.
great. Yep.
Yeah, she is really good. So I
And
love
I'll
hearing her name, and it's a great piece of advice because even if you're on city water, that might just be from a well that's clean, and all they're doing is adding uh, chlorine and fluoride, right?
so
So
maybe that's all you need to
you
filter
can
out.
get a
Yeah.
whole house
Yep.
hydroxyapatite, which is bone char, which will take out the fluoride, and then a carbon filter, which will take out most of the chlorine, or you can use KDF, does a really good job of converting the chlorine into chloride, I believe. I got to think about the
Mm,
chemical reaction there. So KDF does a good job of knocking that down. and you have clean water, right? You wouldn't even need an RO at that point. So yes, I
Right.
think that's great advice from you and Laura.
Yeah, I'll give Laura the credit. Okay, what about the air? You've already referenced that even, toxic exposures we can absorb through our eyes, right? So how important is air quality? And tell us some changes you've made in your home.
Yeah, so mold's your biggest the big one here, and most of our homes are have mold in them. Even the government says it's like 50% of homes have elevated mold, but 90% of homes have a moderate exposure to mold, to just things you're not seeing because of the humidity. It's hard to control, and plus bigger houses are the worst. You're always having water leaks, or just more potential for
Sure.
problems. And so you really, some of the good testing out there, you need to test. This is one of the things you need to do. We have the Homesick Home series. We've done a couple major episodes. So this was done by like HBO producers out of LA. And we really did, we flew in, we have drone footage, we did heartfelt interviews of where the toxins and mold were coming from and how they remediated it and the problems and the,
Where can we watch that? Where's that
yeah, so
available?
that's you can go and register. It's going to be released in late March and April, but
Of
just
24. Okay.
homesickhome.com. So it goes through a lot of this stuff and a lot of the testing that you can do, right? You can do, we're going to teach about some of the testing and things that you can do in that series, but you can also go online and just look at if you have mold in your shower or you think you have mold, you can get a swab test and even just test the filter on your from in your HVAC that has a filter. You can see what, because that's taking a lot of the mold spores that are in your air over a period of months. So that's one trick you can do to see, hey, do I have some mold in my home? And then once you find it, like, what do I do? Where's it coming from? And that's where you do need someone who's really good, because different molds grow different areas, and they can be like, that type of mold is a black mold. That's from water damage. That type of mold is likely from this, right?
Yep.
And then you can start testing throughout your home, and then with either air samples or dust tests, and kind of see where the different molds are, knowing what these certain molds and where they thrive. And then you can kind of pinpoint the area. So that mold wasn't here, but it was in the basement. So you can kind of find where the source is. And it
Mhm.
actually, I did it at my house. That was mold that was coming from my bathroom. That was mold that originated in my mechanical room, right? So you find the sources, then you can, if you have a physical water leak, or a physical mold growing, you need to have that properly removed in a negative airspace so it's not contaminating your whole house. So I do recommend doing that. There's also companies, if there's no real water damage, it just from dampness and just stuff growing in general, you can definitely fog your home and
Mhm.
knock that down with a strong oxidizer. I just did a funny story on that. I spray these oxidizers, um, put my mask on, and spray areas that I know that every once in a while get wet and things like that. I just kind of maintain on it. There's a chemical called, it's an all natural chemical called Benefact, and you can buy a little mold fogger. You can rent them at Home Depot. And if you have an area mold, you can actually fog it yourself. But if it's physical mold, you want to have it removed properly under negative air so it's not going across your home. You definitely need a whole house dehumidifier if you can put one on your HVAC system and dial it down to below 50%, right? And then you want to humidify sometimes in the winter when it's drier, or use an industrial. I like to get the dehumidifiers that are a little more robust, that can move a lot more air than just your general Home Depot one, because some of those just can't keep up with the moisture in the basement. But you got to keep your house down below 50%. And with air quality in general, one thing that you said earlier is the solution to pollution is dilution. And open your windows up to really knock down the volatile organic compounds coming off your carpets, your paints. If you haven't made those switches yet to non-toxic, no VOC paints, if you haven't switched to non-toxic furniture, crack in your window will hunt, like, if your VOCs were 1,000 parts per million, it can knock it down to 50 just by opening a window. And it's more energizing. It lowers the carbon dioxide levels in your home as well. So opening up your window is a great hack. I've been sleeping with my window open. I live on a windy hill where I'm at, so I haven't figured out a way, but I found a way now to open my window at night, and I've been sleeping so much better just having that window open. So crack that window, keep your mold down. If there is a problem, get it tested, find an expert, and get it cleaned up.
Yeah, to echo what you said, I previously had interviewed Andy Green, who helps people build greenhouses essentially, and he really helps with the furnishings. What do you call it? The finishings for things like
Yeah.
cabinets and getting non-toxic carpet and whatnot. So if you want to learn more about that, he also I listened to the Andy Green episodes. I can post those links in the show notes. He also has a test for from formaldehyde because he said that's
Mhm.
another just huge problem in homes that many times we aren't aware of. So also, I did interview Brian Carr, who created the dust test, whose episode
Yeah,
will launch
Brian Carr, he's
before
amazing. Yeah.
his episode will launch before yours.
Yeah.
And he really differentiates the strengths and limitations of air testing versus dust testing and plate testing and whatnot. So listen to that. And then also, just again for listeners, when he's saying, when you're saying to keep the humidity below 50%, you can easily get a little moisture gauge off Amazon for less than $10, right? Put one on every level of your home so you kind of know where the moisture is running. And you can even get now I have alarms all over my house, all over our clinic here, any place there could potentially ever be a water leak. So that'll start beeping, right? If something's leaking to alert us, we have a problem rather than finding it days later. So there are a lot of things you can do. I wanted to comment on the fogging also. I interviewed Jill Carnahan a while ago, and she had recommended for fogging BioBalance, which is a more of a botanical, non-chemical solution. And since
Hmm.
I have patients with multiple chemical sensitivities, that's what we've fogged our clinic with. And I'm just going to fog once a year, home and the clinic. I mean, why not?
It's great.
So,
If you fog it,
yep,
knocks it down for a while, right? But it
yep.
builds back up. So fogging, there's a company called Pure Maintenance that uses a non-botanical, but it's an oxidizer and it goes away. So that's an
Sure,
option.
good.
But if you're
Okay.
chemically sensitive, right,
Just with my
you know,
patients, I thought I better,
yeah,
yeah, be
I
careful what
like
I'm
the
using.
botanical side is awesome. But I've used Pure Maintenance and they're national, so they're international actually. And they're good guys, good team over there. So these, and you,
Thank you.
like
Yeah.
even your, what I found too, here's another tip, is that I used to, went on to Amazon and bought the water leak things and put them everywhere so it would alert my phone, but it was definitely Bluetooth and I had to
Oh,
log on
I don't
mine and,
have any of those alerts. These are just manual.
oh,
No,
the ones that go
yeah,
biz 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 biz
they
and
just
make,
annoyingly
yeah,
beep. That does, it
yeah.
is not connected to my phone. So if I'm not home and there's a leak, it's going to be a while until I figure that out. But yeah, no,
I
I don't
found
want the
some.
EMFs. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I have not, I hardwire my whole house. Like we have no Bluetooth or Wi-Fi on. So, I mean, this is what I do though, right? So I just try to do it. But our alarm system has these little discs. Now they're radio frequency, they're not Bluetooth. So it's just like a regular low, essentially non-toxic radio frequency and these little discs. And they will, I have like 15 of them under my sinks. And I don't know how many times it's saved major water damage because my kids will leave a sink on or something
Uh-huh.
will leak and it goes off and the alarm company will actually call me and let me know that there was a leak and it shuts off my main water valve because it
That's
triggers
amazing.
it'll literally trigger and shut off my water main and it'll shut off my water pump so that if there is a major leak it's only going to be you know a small 15-20 gallon leak versus destroying your home.
What alarm system do you have?
I just, I'm cheap. So I I created my own system. So I don't have one. I made my own and I forget the name of it, but I buy a name brand and then I run it through not through a company. So I only pay like $25 a month or $24 a month. And I buy all my own stuff and had it installed versus paying one of the major
Sure,
companies.
sure.
So and I forget the connections that it has, but it's I can get it to you and put it in the show notes and let you know what I did, but it's pretty fun. It saved
Interesting.
me.
Creative. Okay. Well, I want to end the show with the last couple questions. One is just a unique question. You had a post on the dangers of Christmas trees. Now, this is not going to launch near Christmas, but for preparation with the next holiday season, what are the dangers of Christmas trees and bringing those into our home? So, how can we do better next year?
Yeah, Christmas trees is something that we never really think about because we're looking for that perfect tree. And those perfect trees, it's like a tree that's in the medical system, right? Or is using alternative methods to make it look a certain way, right? So it's getting the best medical care so that it looks really pretty. And those medicines are toxic that's on it. The fungicides, the insecticides, there's no competition. So they're using stuff worse than glyphosate because glyphosate's too expensive to make the soil infertile around the tree, right? And so all these chemicals wind up getting inside of the tree. There's residues all over the tree, right? And they grow them in essentially feedlots. So it's not really environmental by any means. And then they wrap them, helicopter them, and send them to the local stores, and then they spray them sometimes, also with it's, if they say it's food safe dye, but who knows what they're actually doing. I'm sure they get away with, they spray paint them to make them green. So it's not this wonderful natural thing. It's a curated, chemically produced, and fed tree that has all these chemical residues. But here's the beauty of it all. Like, I'm trying to switch people more back to nature, to be connected to nature. And this is almost like bonsai, right? With bonsai, it's like how this tree was shaped by nature because of the wind and the elements. So you can get these trees that are, I love going into nature and looking for the weirdest tree that's been shaped by nature, that's beautiful art like a bonsai, cutting it and keeping it not just for Christmas, but turning it into a goals tree. So we just got rid of our tree last weekend, right? And it was green and healthy the whole time, and it added value. It became part of our family for that time. But really respecting the tree and its beauty, and then prolonging it and enjoying it for a long period of time. So going and cutting your own tree. You can also there's a movement, right, into organically grown trees that you can get from tree farms as well. But I highly recommend that, thinking about, and just it's almost like meditation, that you just like get with nature, and you're like, okay, here I am in nature with my family. Here's this moment. It's beautiful if it's snowing, and then find the tree that's been shaped by Mother Nature, and bringing that home, and seeing how that really just transforms what the Christmas holiday is all about, connecting with nature, God's love for us, and nature's love for us as well, and how we're all part of this together.
Yeah, unique perspective. Around the time you posted a video about the, potential toxicity in Christmas trees, I had an OB appointment at University of Iowa, and the medical assistant was asking us about, how our Christmas, I don't know if it was before or after Christmas, but she basically said as a child, her father would just take them down the road to some random farmer's land, and they would just steal a Christmas tree.
My
Which I'm
God.
not recommending to our listeners, but it was, at least I was interpreting that through the lens of, well, that was probably a non-toxic Christmas tree. If
Yeah.
you can
Well,
get
Farmer Bob's
permission,
asleep. Come on, kids. He's down for the night. I saw his light go out in his bedroom. Let's go.
get permission
Get
before
the
you go
saw.
stealing
Put
a
on your
tree. But
black clothes.
but you really are saying just appreciate the beauty of the tree. It doesn't need to be perfect. It needs to just be real though, and organic, and not treated. So yes, that was great. You've provided so many tips today. Is there anything else that you want to share you haven't been able to share? Any changes you've made in your family's life, specifically even for your children or for your animals, your dogs? I know we mentioned kind of dog toys a couple times here. Anything that you weren't able to mention yet that you want to share before we wrap up?
No, I think we hit. I mean, I deep dived into a lot of the stuff. There's nothing that's popping to mind, but I think I like to always reiterate, and you said this throughout this podcast, is this is not meant to be fearful. This is just meant to equip you with things. It's like, you know what, I can change that. I can do that this week. I can do that this month. The next time I buy utensils, I'm gonna get rid of all the plastic ones and silicone ones. I'm gonna buy wood ones, right? Or I'm gonna buy stainless steel ones. So this is not like, oh my gosh, I have to spend all my money. So going back to think about this as not excuses for failure, saying words like, I can't afford this, or, oh my gosh, it doesn't matter, everything's toxic. Like, a lot of those failure type language patterns aren't really, and we do this in every area of our life, and we all do it. So as we share information that's a little bit challenging, or a little bit not congruent with who you currently are, or you may or may not even believe us, think about it from a non-judgmental standpoint, and go like, well, what if they are right, right? And what if I don't judge this? Is it that big of a deal that I could really buy a wood spatula next time instead of a plastic one? No, not really. And the wood's better. Believe in your intuition. Allow your intuition. Even Einstein said that. Your intuition is the most greatest gift you're given. And a lot of us know intuitively that a lot of these things are bad for. So moms specifically, very, very intuitive humans. You're more connected. When you're intuitive and your body's telling you something, or your brain or your spirit is telling you that that's bad, believe it. don't judge it, and just make the changes slowly and enjoy this ride. I mean, I'm still cleaning up after 20 years. So if it's going to take me 20 years, it's going to take you 20 years as well. So be patient, be kind to yourself, and smile at someone today, because it's going to that's a non-toxic lifestyle move that can change the world as well.
Love it, love it, love it. Well, tell us more, and where can listeners find you?
Non-toxic dad is everywhere. I'm getting a book coming out. We're going to
Good for
start a
you. Yeah.
podcast, 6 months from now, probably as well. So we're going to really move into this education. But right now, all the social platforms, non-toxic dad. I have a website with free resources, nontoxicdad.com. Love to hear from you. Write us. I reply to most things, almost everything myself. I do have some people that monitor stuff for me and help out along the way, but you're talking to me, and I love to connect with you. That's how I learn. I learn just as much from you guys as I'm honored to teach you as well.
Awesome. Okay. Top longevity tip. If you had one, if you had to narrow it down to one, what is your top longevity tip?
Of course, it's remove toxins. I think toxins, we don't age, we get more toxic, right? It shuts down all of our hormonal pathways, robs us of testosterone and strength and drive, and it ages us at the cellular level. It causes oxidative stress. So I think the best anti-aging tip is to remove toxins from your life, because toxins age you at the cellular level. My grandparents lived healthy and happy and with no neurodegenerative disorders like Alzheimer's, and were beating me at cards at 90. And because of all the toxicity today, uh, it's just another intuitive, right? That's causing all this disease and dysfunction. So if you want to anti-age, remove the toxins, listen to folks like me and Laura and other detox experts that are out there, and it will be the greatest detoxification. And carbon, if you're going to do like a pill or a potion or a lotion that helps detox, different carbon products that are out there, take that before bed. Make sure those products don't contaminate with the lead, because a lot of them are, unfortunately. But that's a great tip. Take a bunch of carbon before bed. I know David Avocado Wolf, a good friend of mine, loves to give that tip as well.
Wonderful. Beautifully said. Well, I just want to thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for all your time. Long interview today. Thanks for being the non-toxic dad. I feel like so many times it is the moms, and you really did, give power to the moms. So for following their intuition. But many times I feel like it is the moms that are on the mission. And so I appreciate seeing you as a father on a mission to clean up the toxins in your home and ultimately in your family's life, and spreading that knowledge to others. So I think this just sets such a good example for other men, other fathers. I appreciate your mission. You have huge impact. This was excellent. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you. It was an honor, Dr. Stephanie. Have an amazing day. Bye, everyone.